T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good evening, Patriots. How are you all doing? I see your comments coming in. It's nice to see you guys. Obviously, wish this was not such a sad and upsetting video that I'm going to be doing tonight. I was not planning to go live tonight, but I have to tell you guys that this hit so close to home for me, and it's just really been unsettling to me, and it's been really, really emotional. I'm not trying to make this about myself. I'm just trying to explain to you why I'm choosing to do a live video tonight, because I wasn't planning to, and it's very unusual that I would do such a somber subject or kind of do a video with this tone. But for any of you tuning in who don't know, a January 6th defendant named Matthew Perna committed suicide. Apparently on Friday night. This is Sunday. News is just starting to break that this has happened. I really wanted to do this live tonight because if history of this past year has shown us anything, this story will get next to no attention from the conservative media, and the name Matthew Perna will not be mentioned by a single Republican in Congress or any of our elected conservative officials. They will ignore this. They will pretend like it didn't happen. They will recover from their hangovers from being at CPAC all weekend and celebrating themselves. So I'm just learning who this person is. I'm not sitting here tonight claiming to know that every detail of his case. I did what I could and tried to go back and do sort of a quick study of the situation. I pulled up his court record, and he was charged with 4 charges. Let's see if we've got a date on this. Well, what I'm looking at right now was updated. Okay, he was indicted in February of 2021. So almost exactly a year ago that this has been going on. In fact, he committed suicide 1 year to the day that he was indicted. He was charged with 3 misdemeanors. One was disorderly conduct in a Capitol building, disorderly conduct in a restricted building or grounds, entering or remaining in a restricted building or grounds. Those are 3 misdemeanors, and then a felony charge of obstruction of an official proceeding. So to be clear, the 3 misdemeanor charges that he was charged with are the same charge. They're the same: disorderly conduct in the building, disorderly conduct in the building or grounds. So I'm assuming what happened was he was outside of the building being disorderly, and then he walked inside the building also being disorderly. So that's two different charges. And then entering the building or grounds, So that's 3 charges. He entered the grounds, he was accused of being disorderly, and then he walked through the door and also accused of being disorderly. So that's now 3 separate charges. And then obstruction of an official proceeding. And this is a charge that some people are getting. It's not clear to me why some people are charged with obstruction of a proceeding and some are not. But it is a felony charge that carries 20 years in prison. It was suggested several times over the course of the last year that I could potentially be charged with obstruction. That's a felony that carries 20 years for the 8 minutes that I stood on the east side of the Capitol on the steps before I chose to turn around and leave. So, I want to read to you his obituary, which just came out. I've never read an obituary like this in my life. It's actually the most incredible obituary I've ever read. It's incredibly honest, which I think is amazing, because oftentimes when young people die, by the way, it appears he was 37 years old. I've heard from several of his friends. I spoke with Julie Kelly tonight, who spoke with his father and his aunt, who are devastated. They said he was a really good guy with a really big heart. And his friends who have reached out to me also echoed what a great person he was. Of course, you wouldn't know that if you Googled his name now. All you're going to find if you Google his name is that he's a domestic terrorist and an insurrectionist, because after all, he has 4 charges against him. He entered a restricted area, then he was disorderly in that restricted area, and then he walked through a door and was disorderly after walking through the door, and then he's charged with obstructing an official proceeding. So I want to read to you his obituary, because I was already disturbed by this, I think for obvious reasons. But when I read his obituary, I was just sort of beside myself, because I really identify with how he must have been feeling. The obituary reads: Matthew Lawrence Perna died on February 25th of 2022 of a broken heart. His community, which he loved, his country, and the justice system killed his spirit and his zest for life. Matt was an amazing man. In his 37 years, he experienced more than most people do their entire lives. He graduated from Sharpsville High School in 2002. Then he went on to graduate from Penn State University. Matt loved to travel and lived in Thailand and South Korea during his life, teaching English to school children. He traveled extensively throughout Europe, Asia, South America, India, and the United States of America, making lasting friendships everywhere he went. He went on a mission trip to Haiti and also took many trips with his parents and brother Steve. Matt enjoyed conversing with all walks of life, especially the elderly. It was not unusual for him to strike up conversations with complete strangers, always eager to learn from others. Matt enjoyed running long-distance races, held medals from several states. He enjoyed reading every day. He owned an extensive library of books. He loved music of all types and played piano and saxophone. He was an adventurer who loved trying different cuisines from all over the world and experiencing as many different cultures as he could. Matt loved animals, especially dogs. But when a sickly kitten made her way onto Matt's porch, he nurtured and cared for her and named her Hinoki. He loved her dearly, and she was his roommate. He attended the rally on January 6, 2021, to peacefully stand up for his beliefs. After learning that the FBI was looking for him, he immediately turned himself in. He entered the Capitol through a previously opened door. He did not break in, as was reported, where he was ushered in by police. He didn't break, touch, or steal anything. He did not harm anyone. as he stayed within the velvet ropes taking pictures. For this act, he has been persecuted by many members of his community, friends, relatives, and people who had never met him. Many people were quietly supportive, and Matt was truly grateful for them. The constant delays in hearings and postponements dragged out for over a year. Because of this, Matt's heart broke and his spirit died, and many people are responsible for the pain he endured. Matt did not have a hateful bone in his body. He embraced people of all races, income brackets, and beliefs, never once berating anyone for having different views. Matt is survived by his loving father, Lawrence, his brother, Stephen, his grandmother, Rosie, and several aunts, uncles, and cousins who will never stop missing him. He was preceded in death by his amazing mother, his grandparents, Henry and Millie, as well as his grandfather, Frank. Matt had a very special relationship with Frank, who he greatly admired and missed very much. Matt attended Central Community Church in Transfer, Pennsylvania. He was a Christian who read his Bible daily. Matt's family stood by him during his devastating ordeal and are extremely proud of his passion for life and his pursuit of many dreams. His actions last year are not looked down upon. Instead, his family is grateful and humbled by his courage. They say God never gives anyone more than they can handle. That statement is not biblical, nor is it true. Rest easy, Matt. You are finally free. The constant delays in hearings and postponements dragged out for over a year. Because of this, Matt's heart broke and his spirit died. And many people are responsible for the pain he endured. This hit so close to home for me, because the truth is, I was actually doing very well in my case, all things considered, until the month of December. And that is when a piece of me was damaged very, very badly. And I imagine I will recover fully from this situation, but I think it will be a long time before that happens. In the month of December, the DOJ delayed my case for the 5th time, and they made mention to my attorney that they were considering dismissing the charge against me. They had already dropped the 2 felony charges that they had charged me with. They had also threatened to charge me with obstruction. And they offered a plea deal in which I could take a misdemeanor, a single misdemeanor for disorderly conduct. And then in the month of December, they insinuated that they may be willing to drop the remaining misdemeanor charge against me if I extended my case again. And so reluctantly, I agreed to dismiss to extend my case again for a 5th time. And after going through that, they came back to us and said that they were not going to dismiss the charge against me. And in fact, they were offering a sentencing recommendation that was far worse than anything that we had anticipated might happen. My attorneys felt that after everything we had gone through, there was a very good chance that I would be able to resolve my case on essentially time served, because I had already spent time in jail on this charge, and I had already gone through a year of pretrial supervision, and a number of other things that had happened throughout the year that were extremely punitive. And when the DOJ got back to us, the prosecutor said that her superiors were insistent that I go to jail, that I spend time in jail for my misdemeanor charge, my first offense, nonviolent misdemeanor charge, disorderly conduct. I had already spent time in jail. but her superiors were insisting that I spend more time behind bars for the 8 minutes that I stood outside the Capitol on the east side. And the prosecutor said that it was through her advocacy on my behalf that they were able to convince her superiors to give me they were now requesting 4 months of house arrest, 3 years of probation, community service, and restitution. And so I understand exactly how this man feels in having this case dragged out again and again and again and again, and the deception and the dishonesty and the crookedness, it just goes on and on and on. And every time the case is dragged on, it becomes another round of media stories and another round of media stories and another round of media stories. Now, I don't mean the right-wing media. The right-wing media isn't saying anything at all. They are remaining completely quiet. The only people putting out stories are the left-wing media. So every time the case is continued again and again and again, it's another round of stories about a MAGA insurrectionist and a MAGA terrorist whose case has been delayed again, who's facing multiple charges for their role in the insurrection, the deadly insurrection. Many of these people are facing misdemeanors for parading charges and disorderly conduct, trespassing charges. And the reason I have been able to get through this is because I already have years under my belt of dealing with this in a different situation. I spent 3 years traveling around the country doing events for Walkaway and having my events at times violently protested by left-wing protesters, sometimes non-violently protested by left-wing protesters. In most incidents, my events were shut down because the venues would cater to the left-wing mob who would demand that my events be shut down. And then that would become a media story. And the media story would be that the racist, bigoted, white supremacist, white nationalist, neo-Nazi walkaway campaign was coming to town to cause trouble. And thank God for the left-wing protesters who got the event shut down. So I've already gone through years of being labeled a racist, a white supremacist, a neo-Nazi, you name it. So the only thing that's changed now is that the hatred is exactly the same. They hate. So don't let anyone fool you that this is about their patriotism or their passion for elections or their passion for due process. That's not what the left does not actually care about any of this. They care about having an excuse to target their hatred, which was there long before January 6th, at people that they don't know. They've just been given a reason, that's all. The hatred is the same. When 3 years ago, when people were calling me a racist, a bigot, a Nazi, it was with the exact same zealousness and fervor and hatred as now when they call me a terrorist, a traitor, or an insurrectionist. Just the names have just changed. The hatred is exactly the same. So I'm used to it. I've developed a thick skin. I don't really care when people call me names or attack me because I know the truth, and I know you guys know the truth, and I know that I have a network of people from coast to coast who love and support me. But imagine if you didn't have that. Imagine if you were just an everyday working class individual in this country who wasn't used to being the subject of headlines, who wasn't used to being the subject of news articles, who just wants to live your life in privacy day to day, do your thing, earn your paycheck, pay your mortgage. These people, many of them are scraping by paycheck to paycheck, just trying to get by. and their lives have been turned upside down because no Republicans in elected positions care about them. I guarantee you, not a single Republican from Congress has done a thing to help any of these people. How do I know? Because not a single Republican from Congress has done a thing to even help me, who people know and people care about. So these people have been fired from their jobs. They've been shamed and ostracized in their community. They've become unemployable. They have no money. They have tens of thousands or more dollars in legal fees. And they have the entire might of the federal government crashing down on them. And I know how that feels because it happened to me too. The difference was I at least had people emailing me and posting me and saying, it's going to be okay. We love you. We support you. These people didn't have that. And now this man was facing potentially 20 years in prison on an obstruction charge because according to the reports, I don't know his case. I didn't study his case, but according to all the reports I read, and many of them are left-wing media outlets saying he went inside the building for 20 minutes. None of them have pointed out that he did anything violent, that he did anything, any vandalism, any destruction, that he hurt anyone or put his hands on anyone. That's not stated in any story. And according to the statement in his obituary, he was inside of the building behind a velvet rope taking pictures. It also was stated that his version of the events were that he was pushed into the building. I don't know, but that's what it says. So you've got people, common everyday individuals who've lost their jobs, they've lost their income, they're now in debt that they'll never get out of for the rest of their life in these legal fees. They're facing prison time. They've been labeled by the international media as terrorists and insurrectionists and evil, awful, stupid, horrible, terrible, violent people. And they are being crushed by the Department of Justice and the FBI. And nobody cares about them. And I understand perfectly why this man took his own life. My only hope is that anybody out there watching this who's still facing charges, who's still going through this from January 6th, please know I care about you. Your life matters. You matter. I don't know why Republicans in Congress don't care about you. I don't know why no one will talk about this. I don't know. Certainly there are people who did egregious acts of violence and destruction and vandalism. And those people are going to need to pay a fair price for the violent acts that they committed, a fair and just cost for what they did. But I know that there are hundreds of you out there who trespassed into the building, who are facing misdemeanor charges on non-violent charges. And your lives and your reputations have been turned upside down. You've been labeled a terrorist and an insurrectionist. And I just want to tell you, no, you're not. You're not. And maybe no one else is going to say that to you. But please know that you deserve to overcome this. You deserve to have a life after this. You deserve the right and the ability to move on and move forward from this. You deserve for this to not be your legacy or a scarlet letter that you have to wear around your neck or a stain on your reputation for the rest of your life. You have the right to move forward from this. And it may not feel like it right now, but you do have the ability to move forward from this. You can. So I don't want to see anybody else harm themselves from this. I know that it's torture. I went through it too. Trust me. And so many of these people, conservatives with blue check marks next to their name and members of Congress, these are people that know me personally, that have, I thought, cared about me. And they decided to just make a decision to not talk about this at all and turn their back and close their eyes and plug their ears and move on from this. And I guess people are scared. I guess that despite the fact that conservatives are out there puffing up their chest and saying that they're fighting back against the left and they're not going to allow the left to create narratives, and yet they're turning their backs on people with nonviolent misdemeanor charges who are being labeled terrorists and insurrectionists and having their lives irrevocably destroyed. So I guess at this point, I just want to say that I am going to be somebody who is going to not turn my back on people who have made mistakes. I don't want to tell anyone that they can't come back from any mistake that they've ever made in their life, no matter how bad. And that's on either side of the aisle. I don't care if you're Black Lives Matter or Antifa or if you were in DC on January 6th. I don't care if you're a member of Black Lives Matter who killed somebody. I don't care if you're a member of Antifa who killed somebody. Like, you don't have to spend the rest of your life paying for a mistake that you want to move forward from, or bearing the scars of that from international media torturing you and the Department of Justice torturing you. Enough is enough. I mean, this is cruelty beyond cruelty. And this man didn't even have an opportunity to have his day in court yet, and now he's gone. And I just wanted to talk about all of this because this has gone so beyond too far. So beyond too far. And it is like we are in the twilight zone when Republicans are doing nothing about it. Nothing. So join me, won't you, in the twilight zone? Will you all today get on the train with me, and let's just ride the train through the twilight zone together? Because I don't want to be on this train alone anymore. I want you guys to see what I have been seeing and experiencing for over a year. And again, this is not about just letting people off the hook if they committed crimes. Even if the crime is trespassing, even if the crime is disorderly conduct, it's not about letting people off the hook, but it's about saying, my God, enough is enough. We're talking about misdemeanors here, okay? You can't both label someone an insurrectionist and a domestic terrorist and destroy their lives using the full might of multiple departments of the federal government, and then say, oh, and it's a misdemeanor charge for disorderly. I mean, this is above and beyond cruel and unusual punishment. And at this, all I'm asking at this point is just please see it with me. Just get on the train with me and watch this with me, because I've already been living it for over a year. Somebody committed suicide 2 days ago because he felt so helpless. According to his obituary, the United States Department of Justice broke his spirit and his zest for life. It's just wrong. This is so wrong. And I just don't understand. I do not understand what any fair-minded people are thinking right now. And I do not understand what Republicans in positions of power are thinking right now. What is more important than that? I can't understand. All right, Patriots, I'm going to jump off here. I'm going to get on my treadmill and go for a run and try to unplug from this. On a more hopeful note, this Wednesday night, catch me and the Walkaway team as we go live for you to do a State of the Reunion recap, post-show, and also talk to you about the future of Walkaway as we relaunch in the coming months and what we have planned for the rest of the year. That's coming to you this Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. We're streaming live to Facebook, Twitter, Getter, YouTube, Rumble, and I feel like I'm forgetting one. But anyway, we're basically streaming live to like everything. So I'll see you Wednesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. I'm really sorry that I bummed you all out, I'm sure, but I don't know what to do, because I feel like I'm one of the only people in the country and in the world who is standing up and talking about this. It's insane. But I love you, Patriots. And we'll talk again very soon, and things will be better next time. Have a great night.